Hello and welcome to Frank Fridays. My name is Karline Moeller and I am the founder of Art Frankly. I'd like to introduce my collaborator, Ellie Hayworth of Hayworth Consultancy. Hayworth is committed to promoting intrepid ideas in both art and design. Ellie has grown her business to command a full scope of client services, including public relations, content development, business strategy, speaking engagements, events, you name it, Ellie can help you. And today we are chatting with Alia Williams, who is the Managing Director of Artists and Exhibitions at Jeffrey Deitch. Alia joined Jeffrey Deitch in 2017 and has organized exhibitions such as Punch, curated by Nina Chanel Abney in both New York and Los Angeles, as well as special art fair presentations like Austin Lee at the Armory Show. Ellie, I will let you take it from here.
Amazing. Thank you, Karlina. And Alia, I'm really excited to chat with you today. We've known each other in the art world for a few years now, so it's really great to catch up.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to be talking to you. It's really great to catch up. I'm so happy that because of the pandemic, it's been able to bring us together in this way.
I agree with that statement. So Alia, I think, Karlina did a fantastic job of synopsizing your role with Deich. And I think one of the things that I've always found so compelling about Deich is the fact that it is a very kind of hybrid and innovative gallery model. So I'd love to hear a little bit, certainly Deich is known for a number of collaborative projects and very innovative exhibitions, Punch being one of the exhibitions that I think really has stood out in the past few years, and you had a very large hand in that. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to organize shows like that and how kind of the format of the Jeffrey Deich Gallery has lent itself to different kinds of projects in that way?
Yeah, of course. So, well, as you can imagine, it is a lot of work that is involved. But the great thing is that we are such a small team that we can be very nimble and collaborate very well, both between our New York locations and LA locations. So we are able to present a really large scale, ambitious exhibition like Punch, curated by Nina Chanel Abney, or our figurative sculpture show People that we did in both our New York and LA locations. And it looks like a museum show, even though it's a very, very small team working in the back. So it's always really exciting. I think something that's special about Jeffrey is that he really has vision. Artists will come to us and we will cultivate really insane ideas that his immediate gut instinct is, yes, absolutely, let's do it. So it's really changed my view on what's possible in a private space, since we are like a business. But it's been really engaging and really enthralling to work with someone like Jeffrey, who does have the vision and who also has so much experience working with artists of different generations, international artists from all over the world, who he knows just how to get things done. And that's the same approach that I've taken to all of my projects.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, I can certainly attest to that. And I think if anything, your title is very representative of the ability to both be nimble and agile, but work with a number of different responsibilities. So I anticipate on the day-to-day, you are working across a number of different responsibilities, including sales and curatorial, as well as artist liaison responsibilities. Can you maybe just speak a little bit about what your day-to-day responsibilities look like and a day in the life is?
Yeah, of course. Well, COVID has changed things quite a bit. So I have like a pre-COVID day in the life and then a post-COVID. Well, we're not exactly post-COVID, but it kind of feels like things are getting back to normal now. Pre-COVID and kind of what's been going on recently is I've had a lot of in-person studio visits, which has been such a breath of fresh air after just doing studio visits or meetings via Zoom for the past year. So I will usually try and schedule at least a couple times a week a studio visit with an artist that I'm either interested in or an artist who is a part of an upcoming project. And then after that, it's really just taking a look at my email and seeing what needs to be immediately addressed that day. So either plans for an upcoming exhibition, maybe it's going over budgets, maybe it's a call with another artist or another in-person meeting at the gallery. And then I really like to end my day working on a long-term project. So either another upcoming exhibition or a book project, or maybe I have Zooms with West Coast that are usually in the evening. And the only thing that's really changed with pre-COVID and the current state is the Zooms. So sometimes there are days where I'm just in Zoom purgatory and I have just Zooms back to back, but I really try and get out and do in-person visits when I can, since art really needs to be seen in person, or even go to a gallery or go to a museum show, just trying to surround myself as much as possible with art.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually kind of a perfect segue for the next question I was hoping to pose. It certainly has been a very volatile year, and it's asked for us to be kind of quick on our toes in terms of renegotiating our networks and staying in touch with individuals. I think Zoom clearly has played a very large role in that, but perhaps beyond Zoom, how are you staying connected with your networks? How have your networks changed? And perhaps it is all on Zoom, but just can you tell us a little bit about how you felt like you've been staying connected with the art world?
Yeah, of course. Now that things have opened up a little bit more, I've been able to actually go to galleries and stay connected with artists that way. I've also rediscovered a love for phone calls, for like long 2-3 hour phone calls. That's been a really, really wonderful rediscovery. Since I'm a millennial, I of course avoid the phone at all costs, but the past year, it's been really, really nice. So that's kind of how I've been mainly staying connected to the artists. Also Zooms, of course, but I've really rediscovered the love for a long phone call, just hashing things out or just catching up and seeing what's going on. There are a couple of artists who during the pandemic, I really just stayed in contact with, because we do like a couple hour phone call a couple times a week. So that was really, really nice.
I love that. As I think children of the 90s, we have this very like nostalgic recollection of, the true analog telephone calls. And I do have to say, it's definitely something that has come back into play with full force lately.
Yeah, it really has. I wonder if it is just a response to Zooms and how people are just like, okay, I actually want to just be on a phone call and not have the video. But
sure.
But it's been really wonderful. I forgot how nice it was, and also just so much more efficient. It's so
just going to say the expedience,
exactly.
I think, is refreshing.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, that's great. Alia, are there any kind of challenges or adaptations that you had to make, or as a gallery, were there any, is there something that comes to mind that you say like, yes, we met this challenge head on and we had to pivot to be able to address it?
Yeah, well, I think a big challenge was any in-person gathering at the gallery. So it's really changed the way we celebrate our exhibitions.
Sure.
We didn't have any exhibitions open until we reopened our show, Peter Nagy, in the summer. And then our first big opening was actually in September of last year. And we were planning the show and didn't really know how an opening was going to work, if people would be comfortable coming, if we should be by appointment versus non-appointment. As you've probably seen, many galleries have had similar challenges. And so we've kind of decided to be more flexible with the opening and not having as many people come and really limiting the quantity of people. And that has affected the way that we celebrate shows, since I think so many people are used to big openings. But I hope that now that vaccines are being rolled out more consistently, we'll be able to proceed with a bigger celebratory opening and dinners. But that's something that at least for the past year, really put a wrench in how we approach all of our shows.
That makes perfect sense. And from like a personal standpoint, what did the transition to remote work look like for you? Were you working from home? Did you move out of New York City? I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about how that happened.
Yeah, well, I actually stayed in New York, which was interesting to say the least. So I live with my fiance, and we were for the first time working in essentially like a shared WeWork together, which was also interesting. It was a big transition. It was just a really big transition for us to be working in the same place all day, every day. And then also just going out for walks a couple times a day. But I was able to come back to the gallery sometime over the summer, a couple days of the week. And as I got more comfortable, I would come back a little bit more often, but we had to pivot very quickly to having a completely digital way of working at the gallery. And on top of that, a completely digital or a very a larger digital presence for the gallery and opening an online gallery, making sure our website was completely up to date. So that was a huge pivot for our team, but I think that it actually ended up working out very well since we do have multiple locations. We were able to work so much more efficiently and implement some strategies for that we can just use in general this next year programming.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you guys are looking ahead, I mean, we're starting to see Freeze is coming back in a more analog capacity. We're going to be at the Shed this year. You know, we are seeing, I think, to our point, the art world is somewhat a reawakening in a new sense. Do you feel that the past year, both the pandemic as well as just the large kind of social reckoning that we've had in various different capacities, have you guys kind of recalibrated your mission? Are you rethinking the program in some capacity? Are you anticipating going back to a normal art fair circuit? I'm just curious to kind of investigate a little more about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that we're still trying to figure out what doing an art fair in these weird times looks like.
Sure.
I know that we are even more dedicated than before to presenting really ambitious projects with all of the artists that we work with, and that has made it even more clear how important that is during these weird times. But how a fair works, I think that that's something that we're still figuring out. I think that there was a little bit of burnout from how many fairs all over the world every single month there were. And so I think that this time really forces us to take a step back and figure out, okay, what is the most important thing for us? And more importantly, what exactly serves the artists? Maybe doing an online gallery every month or some sort of online presentation doesn't really benefit us or the artist well, but a pop-up project or investing in a like curated exhibition with an artist works a little bit better. I'm not sure, but I think that we're still playing around with that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I think the burnout is certainly something that we have seen across the board, and it is a recurring conversation topic on these Frank Fridays. So I think we all are welcoming a bit of a respite and perhaps a recalibration of what that will at least look like.
Exactly. I hope so. I really hope so.
We'll see. Alia, we're going to take it back a little bit. And, you know, you and I actually are both alumni of the Sotheby's Institute. We also happen to have overlapped early in our careers in the PR and communication sector. So I'm just curious, what are some skills that you learned very early on that you feel you're applying to your current role that you just found to be very invaluable?
Yeah, well, I think that something that's very basic but extremely underrated is just being organized. That is a essential skill that you learn it throughout school and studying for exams and things, but I really found that it was invaluable, not only for generally keeping track of projects and what things need to be done, but also future projects and future planning. If I wasn't organized, then there's just no way that anything would be able to get done. So that has been a huge skill. And I think that that's something that I relearned coming back to Sotheby's Institute after working for a year, just how valuable that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's certainly a part of the makings of a great student. It's also the makings of a great employee, and then it becomes the makings of a great leader. So I certainly think that that's something that can carry on throughout one's career. So those are great insights. Do you see any of kind of the communication skills and the PR skills that you honed, whether it was, you know, together or in other capacities, do you see some of those still coming to light in your day-to-day?
I think that the basics of keeping in touch with your community and maintaining relationships is just completely essential in my role. So maybe I'm not necessarily pitching press or going to press events, but I am definitely staying in contact with close contacts I have who are press people, or staying in close contact with artists or galleries or art advisors. Those same skills can be used across the board. And that was something that I saw how essential it was with Third Eye, and then also at Sotheby's Institute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about relationships.
It always is. And it also, I think, is certainly about messaging and about how you continue to foster strong relationships and the quality of those relationships versus just noise. So that's something, at least in my career, I have learned, you know, it's not just about the volume of your correspondence, but rather the quality as well. So I can totally respect that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, is there maybe one thing that you feel particularly proud of or a milestone on your horizon that you'd like for us, the listeners today to learn a little bit more about?
Yeah, I think for me, it always comes back to just working with the artists. I've been very fortunate to be able to organize and present ambitious shows by artists who maybe it's their first time showing in New York, or they've never been able to work on a specific scale that we're able to make happen. So that is always the most fulfilling project for me, or fulfilling aspect for me. I am working on a really exciting show of the most exciting artists working in contemporary ceramics. So that is something that I will be opening in September in New York. And that's been a really valuable experience because I've always been interested in ceramics. So I think that that's going to be really cool when it comes to the fall.
Amazing. Well, you'll have to keep us posted, and we'll certainly make sure that we distribute the news to the respective audiences so that we can support.
Yeah,
it would be great. Alia, we love to end with a few kind of professional practice questions. One of the things we ask everyone is, what is one thing that you do in your kind of day-to-day professional life that you think is very valuable to your success?
Google spreadsheets. Maintaining everything via Google spreadsheets. I'd say that is something that was implemented early on when I started working at the gallery, and it's been invaluable. It's a modern technology and something that's very little, but I really love it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think project management is always paramount. So if you can kind of stay organized, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Is there a set of best practices or some words of wisdom that you would impart to the next generation of aspirational art professional?
Yeah, I would say keep, how do I phrase this? Definitely be open to different opportunities. When I started working with Jeffrey, I didn't necessarily have working in a gallery in mind as like my top choice among all of the careers in the art world. And I actually previously proceeded down a path working at a company that I thought would be my dream company. And I worked there and I absolutely hated it. So I would definitely say keep all opportunities open. You never know until you try something. And the relationships, that's also incredibly, incredibly essential.
I think those are both really, really strong principles to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Our favorite concluding note, and I've actually, Karline, you'll appreciate this. I'm starting to evolve our last question, but we always end on the note of asking about one positive takeaway. And I think, we've been saying one positive takeaway from the past year. I think we're now, in April. And so perhaps we're looking less at 2020, but just generally, perhaps out of this conversation or out of the skills that you've learned in your career, what is one positive takeaway that you hope the viewers or the listeners today will kind of hold close to the vest as they keep moving along in their careers?
Yeah, I would say how resilient everyone has been. And I'm not just talking about businesses or institutions, but even just people. I mean, who would have thought that we'd be able to get through a world pandemic and still be in one piece for the most part? So I think that the resilience of everyone in the art world, and especially New York, can't be taken for granted. And I hope that the hardship that we've all went through will promote and will lead to some really exciting artwork being created and artwork that's being presented. I hope that because of everything that's happened, people are there. What's important is being renegotiated, and we'll be able to see some really ambitious, really great art soon.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. And it certainly is an optimistic note to end on, because I do think that we can all kind of emerge knowing that we've earned some grit, I think, in the past 16 months or whatever it has been. Yeah.
I mean, remember when it was supposed to be 2 weeks and to flatten the curve? That's insane.
I do. And now I live in Miami, Florida. So I certainly understand. Things have changed, but I like to think for the better. So we're going to end on that note, whether there's truth to it or not.
Perfect.
But Alia, it's been lovely. And as we mentioned, even before we started this conversation, it's just really refreshing to see you. And, it's exciting to see all the good work that you've done with Jeffrey and just beyond. So it's nice to speak with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ellie. This was really great.